Hello, I'm Richard Harvey and welcome to my studio. I'm very happy to be here today demonstrating some of my instrument collection to my good friends from Orchestral Tools. Today I'm going to start with the Duduk, the great national and historic instrument of Armenia. And it has the longest history probably of any European woodwind instrument. That's the biggest thing it has. The smallest thing it has probably is its range. And I always think of the Duduk as having the range of the chest voice of a female alto singer. I think that's one of the reasons that this instrument is so popular, because it feels like a mother singing to her child, because it's almost exactly the range of a chest voice of a woman. It's very emotive. It's got that reedy sound that comes from actually what is an enormous reed compared to the size of the instrument. And really the reed is the instrument. The reed is made from quite thick cane, and it has this little device here to make sure the reed stays open or doesn't open too much. And the instrument itself has a range of just over an octave. So it doesn't overblow in the way a clarinet or an oboe or a saxophone would. It doesn't have a second octave. That's why you have the additional hole down here, which means if you want to use the little finger of the left hand, you can extend the range. Normally you'd play, but you can get down to the low F sharp. So it's a range of an octave from A to A with an extension down to a G sharp and F sharp. You can bend on most notes and do that with quite good effect. Playing chromatically isn't really an option. If you're writing for this instrument, please stick within the key that the instrument's intended to be in, because it doesn't resonate, it doesn't feel happy in any other key. In my opinion, the A Duduk is the best instrument of all. My next favourite is the Duduk in C, which is a minor third higher than this one, which has A as its bottom note. Then to me, the Duduk in D is starting to be a little bit too high. It starts to feel a little bit strangled, a little bit like a clarinet when it gets to be that small. And the one lower than this in the key of G still has that really warm viola female voice type honeyed sound, but this one really, I don't know, it just does it for me in a way that the G Duduk doesn't. Any other sizes, yes, okay, I think you can get a Duduk in B flat, and that would be okay. But going beyond the range I've talked about, I don't think is a terribly good idea, because these are more recent inventions. I'm sure for many years the Duduk in A was pretty much the only one. And the further you get away from that key and pitch, the less like a Duduk it's going to sound. The great quality of this instrument is its massive dynamic range. But because the reed is so big, and you can cover so much of it with your lips, you can have great control over it. So you can be almost inaudible.
So the dynamic range.
Yeah, the dynamic, even greater than clarinet.
Yeah.
I mean, the clarinet is famous for having this sort of the biggest dynamic range probably of all woodwinds, although flute players may dispute that. I don't suppose there are many instruments with a bigger dynamic range than the Duduk. And then the great thing is when it gets very loud, the two sides of the reed buzz against each other, and that's when you get that marvellous sound where you just start to hear some edge to it instead of just the purely vocal sound. But I started playing this a few years back, and I absolutely love it. You have to spend quite some time preparing the reed beforehand, so it's a really difficult instrument to play live if you're playing other instruments at the same time, because you can't pick the instrument up and just expect it to play, because the reed might have got a little dry, or might have closed up a little bit. So really the reed is the thing you have to take care of. You could almost carry your reed around with you and borrow someone else's Duduk. It's so important to the sound you're going to get. I can't remember the first score where Duduk was used, because I'm sure there were plenty. I first remember hearing it on Gladiator, of course, and then I think the next real impact for me was The Passion of the Christ, because the way it interfaced with vocal and bowed strings, electric cello as well, you sometimes didn't know which instrument you were hearing, or even whether it was a voice or a Duduk. It was a really, really interesting soundscape. And you have to accept the range of the instrument is the limitation. I don't mean the dynamic range, which, as I've said, is enormous, but the range of pitch, which is really quite limited, and its inability to play chromatically. I mean, it is a true folk instrument, and it should be treated as such. Don't go writing for a Duduk in A and writing for it in E flat minor. That just won't work. But I think it's one of the most emotive instruments there is, and probably ever has been. And I think it'll remain in this sort of armoury of film music composers for a very long time to come. Thank you for watching, and see you on our next little talk.